Hello everyone, welcome back to the newest episode of Talk of the Town, the first episode of 2026. I'm Peter.
I'm V. I'm Janet.
I'm Angus.
Today's episode is going to be about ableism and accessibility. Before we begin, we'd like to put a little disclaimer that some of the topics we'll be covering today may be upsetting or triggering for some listeners. The topics include, obviously, ableism, abuse, and other dark subjects like that. So, what do we mean when we say ableism? Because it's a word that some people might have heard, but they probably don't know the full meaning of, or the context in which it, arises. And when we're talking about ableism, like most of the other isms, it's the belief that only some people are quote-unquote normal, and that other people, in this case people with disabilities of any kind, mental or physical or emotional, there's a wide spectrum. Ableism is when you discriminate either consciously or subconsciously or unconsciously against people with disabilities. And this can take the form of things like microaggressions, like things that you say that you might not realise are ableist terms. It can be when someone parks in a disabled parking spot just because, well, I'll only be in for 2 minutes, or maybe they just don't care. It can just be a wide variety of things that consciously or unconsciously show someone's bias against people with disabilities. Historically, this has its roots in the eugenics movement of last century, which is exactly where it should be left. We've made lots of great steps forward in terms of accessibility and disability rights. We still have a ways to go, which is something we'll be discussing today, but what's important is that we raise awareness of these things and ensure that we as a society do not return to those dark days when people with disabilities were, kept away from society, shut away. We're never going back. I think that we've all experienced ableism or seen it. If we haven't experienced it personally, we all know what it looks like, here anyway. I thought we would begin by talking about our personal experiences with ableism, and I'll let whoever wants to go first, go first.
When I was in high school, there was a room where all the kids with disabilities got dumped, called the Fun Time Club. There was generally one member of staff to make sure everything was all right. As you can imagine, when there was no member of staff, things on there got out of hand pretty quickly. It's not just kids with disabilities who go. Anyone can technically go in there, but that was where people like myself were advised to go. As someone who really struggled to fit in because of my disabilities at high school, it's just annoying every time when I was wandering the hallway or sitting outside near one of the teacher's doors. Don't feel safe being in, going to the canteen or wherever. They always say well, why don't you go to the Fun Time Club room? But as I told them many times, such and such is in there and there's no teacher. I know I'm going to get pestered by these people. I wouldn't mind if there was a member of staff to come along. It's one of those rooms where it's we're trying to help people with disabilities, but it's is it really? It just feels like an afterthought, I think, where it's okay, here's a room where we can just dump these people and then just call it a day. Seem to wonder why people, when they get really upset, where it's well, I wonder why, because there's not staff in there half the time, and sometimes when there is staff in there, they don't seem to care or take things seriously. Trying to fit in high school was difficult enough, and it was annoying to being told I should go there all the time. I don't want to. And the other issue I faced in high school was when it came to classes teaching some bit more trickier subjects. Because of my disabilities, they usually would take me out of class and give me a support teacher to give me a very very simplistic version of the topic. But however, it wouldn't even teach the basics of what the others were been taught in class. Because I briefly heard what the others were talking about and I didn't understand it. And the reason I bring this up, because this still upsets me and angers me to this day, because when I was 24, I met someone online, didn't see the red flags from a mile away, to be fair, what should be obvious, I guess, to a lot of people wasn't obvious to me because I wasn't in a relationship at that point. And let alone trying to communicate with people is so difficult because again, trying to socialize with people is so difficult. How am I supposed to learn how to deal with people if I'm not really given a chance? I mean, I got a little bit of that from college, but don't see my college friends much anymore.
I can see that you're really struggling
Yeah.
to talk about this. If it's too much, don't talk about it.
I do want to talk about it because it kind of falls also under the not just like people with disabilities, but also like men in abusive relationships kind of getting left aside too. Because when this person did come to my house, day one, it was just like mental, physical, and sexual abuse and all that, and it was traumatizing. It took me a long time to get out. A year and a half later of having the courage to talk to people about it, most people were, after discussing, like, might be obvious to them, but they could understand, like, if I wasn't taught this type of stuff in school because I was taken out of the class, they were taught, but I wasn't. So they said they were quite shocked that they kind of took something that was vital, that should have been kept me safe. So how was I supposed to know?
So their safeguarding definitely wasn't there at the time.
Yeah, and like, what were they thinking? Were they thinking... Because I know there's that weird stereotype of like, do people with disabilities never have a relationship? Well, that happened to me, so it could be an easy target.
It's reminiscent of back in the day when people had to go to separate schools if they were disabled, or even before that, if people with disabilities were just like kept at home or in a hospital somewhere. This experience is isolating for disabled people to be like taken out of class and put into another place, and then it again leads to situations where people end up being abused because they're not used to being around people.
It's awful, but like, so see, I'm not against the idea of people who needing a bit more help to be taken out of class to get additional support, as long as they get taught exactly what the others are getting taught. Then that's fine.
There's a different way to teach people depending on people's disability, and that clearly wasn't done for you.
I think everyone in school needs to learn about that stuff because how they're supposed to keep themselves safe.
Exactly right.
I think now there's a lot more safeguarding in schools than there was back then.
I'm still I'm mostly over it because this person, well, she lives on the other side of the planet, so she's not going to get to me ever again, honestly. Still kind of dealing with it, but I definitely feel a lot better now. I just hope schools or whatever else actually teach kids and whoever else what they need to know and not exclude information from them.
Thanks for sharing that, Angus. That is deep.
Well, thanks for hearing me out.
That's what we're here for.
That's right.
As soon as I heard about this topic that we're going to discuss at the podcast, I knew what I was going to speak about right away. And I'm one of these people that tend to believe that my problems aren't as bad as other people's, so I feel a bit selfish about the thing that I want to bring up, but it is quite important for me. It's something I've become much more aware about over the last few years, mainly because my mobility started giving me a bit more grief. These days I walk with two crutches, so I experience the world a wee bit differently than what I used to. And to be fair, things have improved. You go to some places now and you see brilliant effort, ramps, lifts, sliding wide doors, accessible toilets, proper signage, and you think, this is fantastic, someone has actually taken the time to think this through. And then you see that kind of effort, it really does make a difference, that people have put a lot of thought into it. But here's the thing people don't always talk about. Sometimes the hardest part isn't getting into the building, it's actually getting to the building. You can have the most accessible entrance in the world waiting for you at the front door, but the journey to that door can sometimes feel like you've accidentally signed up for an obstacle course you didn't agree to. And let's start with the pavements. When you're walking with two crutches, every little bump suddenly matters. Some pavements are so uneven, they look like they were laid during the Roman Empire and nobody's checked on them ever since. You're making your way along thinking, right, steady, I'm doing well. And then suddenly you hit a bit and it feels like it's been designed specifically to test your balance. Then you get to the dropped curb, except sometimes it's not really a dropped curb. It's more like a suggestion of one. You're standing there looking at thinking, technically that is lower, but I'm still not convinced the person who designed it has even tried navigating it with wheels, crutches or anything else. And then there's the crossings. Sometimes the button is so far away you need the wingspan of a seagull to reach it. Other times the road is so wide at the start of the crossing, you start crossing confidently and halfway across you might need to get a packed lunch for the rest of the journey. But jokes aside, what it really shows you is that accessibility isn't just about the buildings, it's about the whole environment around them. Because if the pavement, the curb, the crossing and the route to the building aren't considered, then the accessible entrance at the end is a bit like a beautiful solution sitting in the finish line of an obstacle course. And
People don't think about the journey.
no, and it's not just about people with mobility issues that feel this. There's parents pushing prams, older people who aren't steady on their feet, people with visual impairments, even delivery drivers pushing heavy trolleys. It takes in a vast amount of people. A lot more people rely on a good infrastructure than we sometimes realise. Most of these barriers aren't complicated problems. They usually come from small things being overlooked, maintenance that hasn't happened, planning that didn't involve the right voices, or simple details nobody thought to check. But when you speak to people who deal with this every day, the solutions are very often quite straightforward. A smoother pavement, a proper drop curb, a safe crossing point, a clear route to the door. None of this is revolutionary, it's just a thoughtful design. And really, accessibility isn't about giving some people special treatment. It's about making sure everyone can move around their community safely, independently and with dignity. Because when accessibility works properly, nobody really notices it. People just get it to where they're going. And honestly, that's just the goal. Not an obstacle course, not a survival challenge, just a normal journey to the front door. And maybe that's the real test of accessibility. Not how impressive the ramp looks, but whether everyone can reach the door in the first place.
You don't think about that. Unless you've got an injury, that's when it happens.
It's the same with lots of disabilities that I'm now finding out about. Unless it directly affects you,
Yeah.
I feel as if I've been quite selfish because I don't know about all these things I'm learning. But it's kind of like what Angus was saying. If you're not taught them at school, how do you know if you've not got anybody that needs assistance around you?
Exactly.
And it's made me feel quite ignorant that I've not done any research into what people's needs are.
But these are the things, none of us do it unless you have someone that needs it.
Yeah.
I was saying to Caroline earlier, we focused on restaurants that had good ramps, drop curbs. You know, our auntie was alive, just to make sure she could get in. If it wasn't suitable, we would never go, and everything was planned around that. Everything.
As I say, everything is much better now, like people are thinking about it. And I do think people care, but I don't think it's actually people with mobility issues that are designing things.
No.
It's why inclusion is so important, because if you have lots of different people on a team that are designing or making something, then it ensures that you just have more perspectives. So if you have something that will require accessibility, if you have people on your team that have accessibility issues or are knowledgeable about it, then you can include that in your
plans.
in your plans,
Yeah,
in your,
someone
in your
with
design.
first-hand experience, it'll always, the outcome will always be,
Or even maybe bringing somebody in just as a one-off to proofread their plans to see if the person they bring in's got mobility problems but because I'm learning more about unseen disabilities now, I'm thinking it's not just about mobility issues.
No.
There's a whole big picture that
There's
people
noise.
need to be included.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to talk about, like hidden disabilities.
Yeah.
Talking like how you use the crutch. When I had a couple of knee injuries, I was using crutches, and exactly the same. You don't realise until you're using it. It's so, like the slightest movement in the pavement when it's uneven, it just jars every muscle, every bone. Sitting like and using the priority seats, and people look at you and think, well, why are you sitting there? And it's like, well, I've actually got a really bad leg that I've had an operation on, and people don't see it.
No.
It's hidden. So the hidden disabilities is, being neurodivergent. I don't know if I can say high functioning. That seems to be the term that's floated about. And when I do tell people in like a work environment that I am neurodivergent and that I do need more time to process, to actually do things, they're like, oh yes, we'll do everything. And then they're like, well, why is it taking you so long to do that? I don't appear to have any disabilities.
You sound very articulate.
These are the things that is classed as high functioning. But what's going on up here in my mind, it's not. It's like I don't drive, but go down the motorway in first gear. That's what my brain's doing. It's just, but it's trying to process so many things. And it when people do the eye rolls as if to say, well, it's still taking you that time. They don't get it and they forget. And it's almost like the badges that have come out, like the neurodivergent ones, I think they're brilliant. There's also a part where there's a lot of people that go, oh, another person that's neurodivergent. It's so annoying that people don't get the hidden disabilities.
It's like they think that you don't deserve the same pay grade as them because it takes you that bit longer.
Yeah. Why are you here? And sometimes they give you like really meaningful things, but then they go, oh well, we'll take it off you. And we'll give it, and they give you like something so basic, like go and do some photocopying, because they think, oh well, it's far too much. She can't cope with that. I don't know if you've seen sort of like that. There in some lifts, there's like a button lower down, and I think it's predominantly for like wheelchair users. But what I was thinking is, if we're doing ableism for everybody, if someone was to say the parent or whoever, the carers with the kid, if something was to happen to them in the lift, at least the kid can still get to the lift. He can press the button if they're talked to, and help can still get there. It's like all these changes all the policies that are put in place to make things better, it's allowing someone that doesn't have a disability or a need, but they need it in that particular moment. So being accessible to someone that doesn't necessarily physically or mentally need it, it's enabling them to be able to do something. And all the shops helping people like with chopped fruit and veg.
If I could borrow a catchphrase from a large corporation that's actually done a lot of good work for accessibility, Xbox created a controller specifically for people with limited mobility so that they could play games. The tagline for this initiative was, when everyone plays, we all win. And I think even outside of that context, I think that's the point that you were getting at, is
exactly.
When everyone's included, it benefits everyone.
Everyone. It doesn't matter which or why somebody needs it. If it makes it quicker, easier for everybody and safer.
I think also what kind of annoys me is like when you have people who don't want like accessibility options because they think it might not apply to them, but they don't know that. Anyone could end up in a wheelchair tomorrow, whether that be an accident or something in your body goes wrong, physically or mentally. It happens all the time to millions of people. So if those accessibility options are there, it means it's going to help you in the long run.
It could even be that they're using like a wheel trolley shopping thing because they've got a shoulder problem. It might not be their feet, but they might need to wheel a trolley.
But it's even stuff like, I live in a flat where there's no lift. What happens if something happens to my legs, or there isn't anyone in my flat who complains about accessibility, but let's just pretend there was, who complains about all those damn lifts and people being kind to each other. I'm one of those type of people. Like, if something happens to that person and he needs assistance, like, he's complained about it, but now he needs it.
When things are accessible for everybody, nobody notices.
Exactly.
Because it's easy for everybody. It makes life easier. So there's nothing to complain about.
Exactly.
I thought it would be fun to talk about some inventions that were originally intended for people with disabilities, but now everyone uses. And I'm not just talking about the obvious ones like text-to-speech or the opposite, speech-to-text, but things like text messages themselves were originally designed. The original text message was like a device. When you called someone, you would push the buttons on the phone and then they would hear the letters and then they would understand your message. That's how it began. It was because it was a dentist and an engineer he had very like
visually impaired or something.
it was something like that. It was something like that, and they invented the text message that way. Other things like we talked about briefly, like the pre-chopped fruits and vegetables, which you see everywhere in the supermarket and are extremely convenient for everyone, were originally designed for people that, had limited mobility or bad arthritis or, just couldn't hold the things
Or even
properly.
someone with like really bad shakes for whatever illness that might be. Holding a knife, chopping fruit and veg, that could be pretty dangerous.
Exactly. Oh, there was another invention I wanted to talk about as well, the typewriter. The typewriter was apparently invented by someone because their friend was a blind woman who liked to write letters or couldn't write them herself.
Is that true?
That is allegedly true.
Oh.
That is apparently true, according to the website I was reading, which had a bunch of inventions like this. And another
So
invention,
how could you see what key to press?
she learned the position.
So that's why touch typing was invented.
Well,
Yeah,
it was
could
at
be.
the same time as typing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because before that, she had to dictate to other people what the letter should say and then wanted independence, as most people do. And another invention that was originally intended for disabled people is the humble spork.
Spork.
That's right.
Spork.
Spork.
Sport.
Spork.
It's a great invention.
Spork.
Spork.
Spork. Spork.
Spork.
Spork. Spork.
Sport.
For those people who are not fortunate enough to have encountered a spork in the wild, it is a combination spoon/fork, and sometimes it has a knife as well. And it was invented for people with limited mobility in their hands, or maybe someone only has one arm and they need to use knife and fork and spoon to eat their meals, and they can't use a traditional pair, so they invented the spork, which is a single utensil that does all three. And now they're very popular among people that like to go camping or enjoy hiking because they're just so convenient. Why pack so much cutlery when you can only pack one spork?
Spark.
The spork is a solution to many problems.
I've been going to Edinburgh a bit more recently to go to these social groups. So I've been going on the tram quite a lot. And what I really like about the tram in Edinburgh is that it's level boarding. So for people who can't walk well or use a wheelchair, they can get on it very easily. And tap on and tap off system, a little bit awkward at first, but it's actually quite easy to use, which is good for someone like myself who can't read properly on the screen or whatever. So just having that, put your phone up with a credit card and then do the same on the other side. They might need to make that a bit more clear in some areas, but otherwise it's pretty good.
But that's a universal sign, isn't it? Like to pay, all the symbols for accessibility. That's one of them that we all know, and we all know. Well, I can't read that, but I can tap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like, so the people who want to do it the old-fashioned way, it's still there. But the new way to make it accessible to, well, everyone should also be there too. So you would usually hear some people complaining about like, oh, I don't really like this new system for X, Y, or Z. But then also like, if that old system is still there and we can still use the new one, and I think that's fine. That's okay, right?
Yeah, there should be a choice.
Yeah,
Totally
and
There should be a choice.
And
Totally fine.
I love the trams. I mean, not a fan of how they were planned, because that was a mess. But at least now they're fine. And I would love to see the trams in Edinburgh and elsewhere to be expanded upon, because they hold much more people and they definitely feel nicer to ride on.
Like you were saying, with the level, not level crossing, but
Level boarding.
Level boarding, that is so accessible for everyone. Because I was thinking about the underground or the subway. There's like 2 out of, how many do we have? 13 that's disabled friendly. And that's not enough. And you can't always get the tram to where you want to go to because you need a train.
So the subway trains in Glasgow are also not very autistic friendly because they're extremely loud, they're very cramped, the lights can affect people with sensory issues towards lights. It's just a kind of overloading nightmare.
Yeah.
I can just barely put up with them.
So do you do an alternative route then to avoid it?
Since I can just about put up with it, for me it's fine, but I can think of quite a few other autistic people, or not even just people with autism, but just some other people in general who really don't like it for those reasons. Again, kind of like what I was saying earlier, it's not just people with disabilities. There are some people who just don't like it because it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
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 So
They're very cramped as well. I can't stand up in them.
So that's also disabling for people that are tall.
It's an accessibility issue for there are accessibility issues for people that don't have disabilities, but they're just like taller than average or shorter than average, and it's something that most people would never have to think about. But like on most buses, not nowadays, but I remember back on the school bus, ceiling was way too low. You had to sit the whole way, and if you couldn't get a seat, you had a crick in your neck for the rest of the day.
Last year, and I'm sure we've all done this now. When you're at the shopping mall, there was an elderly woman asked me if I could reach something for her because she was too short. So I did that. And it was nice to help, but it's just like it's so far up from some of these things, and there's like plenty of people who just can't reach it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there'll be people around to help, but you know, sometimes that doesn't happen though, and then you're kind of stuck.
But then it goes both ways. You've got the people that can't get to the top or climb to the top, as Susie's indicated. And you've got people that might not be able to bend down to pick up the ones on the lower shelf because they might have a bad back. So,
exactly.
you know, maybe they need to do like one of those, like, rotating one that
A Ferris wheel.
Yeah, which they do in Japan a lot, don't they? They use a lot of...
First I've heard of it, but knowing the
I might
Japanese,
have
it
just
definitely
made it
is the
up.
case.
I've not been.
It could work. They
It
got the
could
money
work.
to do it,
I mean-
rather than just hogging it all to themselves.
If they just put everything at the correct height for everyone and didn't have it like, oh, we'll put this stuff at the top, this stuff at the bottom, and it's like, what if I like the stuff at the bottom, but I have to
Yeah.
go all the way down there
Yeah.
to get it? Like, I feel like the BFG coming into someone's house. It's rubbish.
So to talk about where people are getting accessibility right or almost right, a few examples. January I went to an art museum and with a friend and we had a nice look around, and then near the end we encountered some things such as chairs that people can take if they just want to have a simple sit down wherever just to look at the art, but also things like headphones just in case they don't like a lot of loud noise or whatever. It's good, but like that wasn't obvious coming in, so it's good to have it there, but it should be like near the reception desk or like in the middle of the room, so it's like
Sort of promoted a bit more obviously.
because obviously you don't have to walk around the museum in a certain way, but because the way we chose, like if I had any of those issues, there was no way of me knowing unless I walked the other way, or even if I just looked to my hard left where they were on the side of the wall. So if they moved those things and put them in a much more obvious spot, I think that would be great. When we were planning this podcast episode, we were talking about other things such as cinema, autistic-friendly screenings, but there's not many of them. You don't really get a variety of films.
So it's limited.
Yeah, right? Is that true?
Yeah, well, it's just something that I found on my own research, but the cinema, which shall go unnamed, the Sterling Cinema, has autism-friendly screenings where they keep the lights undimmed and the sound from the actual movie isn't as loud. And like, that's great. That's really good. There are a few downsides. There's only one autism-friendly screening a month. It's at the end of the month. It's on a Saturday. You don't know what film it's going to be until that week, so you can't really plan ahead of time. If you don't know what films are coming out at the end of the month, it could be one of them. They don't know either. If you want to watch a film that's like comes out at the beginning of a month and you don't know if it will still be screened at the end of the month, like if it's not a blockbuster big hit or whatever, then you might not get it. And because they don't let you know ahead of time what the autism-friendly screening film is, what if it's like a children's movie, but you have the autism that means that you don't like children's movies, you only like movies about dinosaurs or whatever. Even though the autism-friendly screenings are not perfect, they do have other accessible screenings which are way more frequent and they're actually really good. That is to say, they have several showings a day with subtitles for people that have hearing issues. And there are also, almost every screening has audio description available, and if you book one of those, they give you headphones, you put those on, and then you hear what's happening in the film for people with
That's so
visual
good.
impairment.
That's great.
Yeah.
Most of the showings are that audio description. You just need to ask ahead of time.
Yeah, we
really
went
nice.
to a show on Saturday to see Sarah Pascoe, but they had an actual signer on the stage doing the whole I know a little bit of sign. And I was watching her, and it's just like, it was so empowering seeing the people at the front enjoying the comedy like everybody else. And that felt really lovely to see. It didn't detract from Sarah, because there was also the intrigue. You could see that the fun was still coming through from the interpreter, and that was really good.
A lot of big music festivals also have sign language now as well, translating the lyrics as they go. There are a few great websites that people can visit if they want to learn more about these issues. Things like accessible.co.uk. That's accessible spelled access-able, not the usual spelling. So that's a great resource if you would like to learn more about this topic, ableism and accessibility. I think it's important everyone educates themselves on it. And if we're ending here, we usually talk about fluffy bunnies and flowers at the end of our podcasts.
It is that time of year.
It's fluffy bunny time. I'm so excited. The baby bunnies will almost be here. I can't wait.
I think I've got a baby robin in my garden, and it looks like it's just fledged. I take it was the parent. It was hopping along, just sort of showing it all the places, and it was tiny. It was so wee.
Dear listeners, keep an eye out for daffodils, and I guess it'll be a bit late for snowdrops by the time this episode actually releases, but the daffodils and other flowers will start coming through as spring begins to spring. As always, thank you very much to the Toll Booth for allowing us.
Thanks, Toll Booth.
Thank you, Toll Booth. Big fan.
Thank you.
Is that usually what we finish on?
Yeah. See you
Thank
later.
you. Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.